Ever feel like your mind is just a runaway train, replaying the same thought over and over and you just can't get off? Well, today, we're going to pop the hood and see the exact science of why that happens and what is really going on inside your brain when you get stuck overthinking. Oh, you know the feeling, right? That one thought, that one worry, that one memory just playing on a loop that you absolutely cannot stop. It's a totally universal experience. So let's get into the science of what's actually happening in there.
You know, scientists actually have a name for this: rumination. And it's not just thinking a lot. No, it's a very specific process where our brain gets locked onto distressing thoughts. And honestly, understanding this term is the first step to unlocking what's going on deeper inside. All right, so let's take that guided tour of this runaway brain. We're about to meet the key players inside our heads, the ones who are actually responsible for creating that super frustrating mental loop. It all kicks off in the part of your brain that is, all about you. This is your brain's center for reflection, for memory, for thinking about yourself. But what happens when that self-reflection goes into complete overdrive?
So this area is called the default mode network, or DMN for short. But I think a much better way to think of it is as your me network. It's the part that lights up when you're daydreaming or thinking about the past or just thinking about, yourself. And normally, it's a totally crucial part of our inner world.
But, and this is a big but, in an overthinking brain, this me network goes into overdrive. It stops being this place for quiet, helpful reflection, and instead, it becomes the engine of that runaway thought train. And listen, when we say overdrive, we mean more than just being a little too active. Research shows that the actual connections from this me network get stronger, especially to the parts of our brain that manage our emotions. This forges a really powerful physical link between your sense of self and your most negative feelings.
So you might be wondering, if the me network is spinning totally out of control, why can't other parts of the brain just step in and, shut it down? Well, it turns out the brain's management team is a little busy.
Okay, let me introduce you to the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC. Just think of this as the brain's CEO. Its job is to make decisions, solve problems, and, this is the crucial part, tell other brain regions when to stop. It's supposed to be our command center.
But during rumination, the CEO basically takes a very long coffee break. Scientists call this hypoactivation, which is just a fancy way of saying there's a huge drop in its activity. The one part of your brain that should be pulling the emergency brake on that thought loop is simply offline.
And there's one more key player we need to talk about: the salience network. I like to call this the brain's attention spotlight. Its whole job is to decide what's important enough for you to focus on. It's constantly scanning your inner and outer worlds, asking, what deserves my attention right now?
So here's where you can really see the breakdown in action. Normally, your attention spotlight would notice a negative thought and just shift away, and your CEO would step in to manage it. But in an overthinking state, that spotlight gets totally locked onto the negative feeling, while the CEO is way too inactive to do anything about it. The entire control system just fails.
But this breakdown in control, that's only half the story. The real problem, the thing that makes it feel so awful, starts when our emotions get involved, supercharging a simple thought into a powerful repeating cycle. And for that, we need to meet the amygdala. This is our emotional alarm system. It's this ancient, primal part of our brain that fires up whenever it senses a threat, flooding our bodies with feelings like fear and stress.
And this is why overthinking feels so bad. It isn't just a thought process, it's a deeply emotional one. Rumination keeps this alarm system blaring, kind of like a smoke detector that just will not turn off, even long after the smoke is cleared. It just floods your system with persistent negative emotion.
So here's how this whole vicious cycle feeds itself. Ready? Step 1, the me network brings up a negative thought. Step 2, the emotional alarm goes off, triggering stress. Step 3, the attention spotlight locks onto that intense feeling. And because the CEO is offline, there is nothing to stop the loop from starting all over again. And each time, it gets a little bit stronger. Okay, let's zoom out and look at the full picture now. Because overthinking isn't about just one faulty part of the brain. It's about a complete breakdown in the teamwork between all of these key brain networks.
It is literally a perfect storm. The me network generates the negative thought. The CEO fails to regulate it. The attention spotlight gets stuck on it, and the emotional alarm just keeps fueling it with stress. It's a full team effort, except they're all working together to keep this horrible cycle going.
So here's the most important thing to remember. Overthinking is not a character flaw. It's not a weakness. It's a systems problem, a temporary breakdown in the incredibly complex communication architecture that's inside our own heads.
And this isn't just interesting trivia, right? As researchers have found, understanding exactly how these networks break down is the absolute key to developing real, targeted interventions, things like mindfulness or therapy that can actually help us get unstuck. So now you know what's happening under the hood. You know about the networks, the systems, the cycles, and just understanding that mechanism, well, that's the first step toward gaining some control. So the only question left is, what's your next step going to be?